welcome everyone. My name is Linda Bevick and I'm the Employer Relations Coordinator at UW Parkside. And just want to thank you all for coming today to this UW System Virtual Career Trek featuring Jennifer Hart from Kenosha Unified School District and hosted by our campus, UW Parkside here in Kenosha. I want to thank Haley Carr from UW Superior Career Services for managing our technology and being our support person and coordinator. Also, there's an official registration form linked that you'll see in the chat, so please be sure to fill that out if you have not already done so. So the UW System Career Trek was an initiative to bring UW students from around the state together with employers to help students learn about these businesses and organizations, to meet some of their career recruiting staff, to discover their internship and postgraduate career opportunities, and to learn more specifically what it is these employers look for in terms of skills, academic requirements and preparations, and learn about their hiring process. There have been 13 different career treks offered each semester this year, in the fall semester and the spring semester. And they are all posted on Handshake, and students can go to Handshake to view the complete schedule and to sign up and register for the remaining career treks this semester. The next career trek will feature Imperial Supplies, and that's April 7th, and I believe that is hosted by UW Oshkosh. So again, just if you have not registered, please click on the link in the chat and complete that registration form. And now I would like to introduce Jennifer Hart, who is a Human Resources Coordinator for Recruitment and Retention at Kenosha Unified School District, who will tell us more about Kenosha's largest employer. So welcome, Jennifer, and thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me today. I'm very excited to talk about Kenosha Unified School District. It is one of the largest employers in Kenosha, and I think a lot of people aren't really, when they're looking for jobs, if they're not in the teaching profession, really look at a school district as a potential employer. So I'm excited to share a little bit about the unique employment opportunities that we have here with the district, and how, you know, many different students coming from different majors might have you know, an opportunity here within the district. So if I don't mind, I'm going to go ahead and try to share my screen. Well, hopefully this will work. All right, do I have success? Awesome. All right, so a little bit about me, if I can move forward here. So again, my name's Jen Hart. I am the Human Resources Coordinator for Recruitment and Retention. So my main function is to do things like this and get the word out about the district and help recruit talent to the organization, as well as retain our employees once you're here. So very excited to have this opportunity with you. I've been with the district a little over 2.5 years. Was not in education prior to this, and had actually never thought about working at a school district. Was in human resources with banking for many, many years. And it was actually a friend of mine who saw the job opening and recommended that I apply. And I had thought originally, well, I don't really have any experience in education, so I don't know if they would even look at someone like me. But they did, and I'm glad they did. It's been such a wonderful learning experience here to learn about just, you know, what a multifaceted organization a school district actually is. So I'm excited to share some of that information with you. And then also I am a UW graduate. So hello to all of my UW folks. A little bit about Kenosha, if you're not from here. It is in between Milwaukee and Chicago, right on Lake Michigan. So to me, I grew up here, moved away for many years, and have come back. It's a wonderful place to live and or work. We have affordable housing. The beautiful lakefront is right here. In fact, Kenosha Unified, our district office, is maybe a 5-minute drive to downtown Kenosha. We have the best of all worlds because we live in between Milwaukee and Chicago as well. So you can get to either of those big cities without actually having to live in a big city and pay that big city price tag. We are the third largest school district in the state, which is kind of surprising, especially when people aren't familiar with Kenosha. Like, who's Kenosha and why are they so large? But we do have over 21,000 students, and we have 42 schools. And in those schools, we do have some charter schools, specialty schools. But we are primarily a public school system. And we are one of the largest employers in Kenosha with over 4,000 employees. So we do have a lot of people that work here from Kenosha, but we have a lot of people that commute in from Illinois and all the way up from Milwaukee to work here in our district. So we have a great diverse group of people that work here. Our mission and core values, as you can imagine, a school district, our mission is to make sure that we are successfully educating all of our students, and that we are giving them all the opportunities and experiences for student success. And that is sort of at our core for everyone. So it's not just whether you're a teacher. So even in my job, what drives me or what my values are for here at the organization is all about providing service for our students. So when I'm looking to hire not only teachers, but I'm hiring janitorial staff or food service or IT staff, I'm looking for people that are going to be dedicated to their jobs and successful in their roles so that they can provide services so that those students can have that education. And it's amazing, all of that rolls into whether or not a student is going to have a positive experience at the district, right? So they have clean, well-kept buildings, they have hot, delicious meals, they have teachers that care about them. So all of that kind of rolls into, you know, our district here and how our students thrive. Our core values, there's a lot of them. I'm not going to go over all of them. But again, you can see it's very student focused on making sure that we're providing a safe environment for them, that we have unity among our staff, our community, and our students, that there's teamwork here, and that there's trust among not only the staff and the community, but also our student population, and that you know, we're a stabilizing force for our students. So again, that's really what drives the district, and our core values is really to make sure that we are educating all students. I'm going to wait. I was going to try to show a video a little bit about our culture, but I think I'll wait till the end because it was crashing on me before, so I don't want to crash this whole presentation right this moment. But a little bit about our culture. When people ask me, guys, what's the culture of a school district? Well, with 42 different schools, each school kind of has their own culture in a way that's led by that principal or that administrator and then the staff and students. But the overarching culture of the organization is really about the passion and dedication of the staff to our student population. And you will feel that throughout everything that you do and see here. Everyone that I've ever interacted here is very dedicated. They're very passionate about what they do, and very collaborative. People here really feel that they're connected to the work that they do. And so they are willing to, you know, no one here says it's not my job. They're more than willing to work with anyone across the district if, you know, if anything needs to be done. For example, you know, when COVID-19 hit and we're looking at, you know, reopening schools, it was such a collaborative effort between so many different departments and people here to find out how we could do that safely and effectively. And it really was a testament to the culture that we have here of that collaboration, that we were able to get a lot of work done in such a short amount of time and doing it well. Our school year has been going great. We have virtual and in-person students, so we're doing a hybrid model. And our, you know, our doors have remained open, our students have remained safe, and we are continuing to learn and grow through this challenging school year. Employment opportunities in the district. So again, a lot of people think school districts, teachers, teachers' aides, librarians, front office workers, but there's so much more that goes into a school district. So here at the district office, we have a lot of departments that most major organizations would have. So human resources, for example, we have an IT department, marketing, and communications. We have a whole professional learning team. What else do we have here? Finance. So there's a lot of places where somebody that's coming out of school or is a recent grad would be able to come in with very little experience and get trained and get knowledge, or use that degree that they have in the district. We also have people in our schools that aren't traditional education majors. We have nurses that are at a lot of our schools, RNs. We also have therapists, so physical therapists, occupational therapists, speech therapists, you name it. So people with a medical background would also be able to find work here at the school district. So it's a very exciting place to work. Again, I wouldn't have thought about it coming out of school, but there are a lot of opportunities here. And the one thing that I would say coming out of a college that a district like us, you might want to look at us, is that we are willing to give students a chance because we do have the infrastructure to train, and we're always looking at people who want to continuously learn and grow. So, you know, we aren't always looking for people that have 10 or 15 years of experience for some of our roles. So there are definitely opportunities at the entry level to kind of come in and get that experience. And then there's opportunities to grow within the district. Since we are one of the larger employers here, there is a lot of opportunities to move around the district and gain more experience. Skills required. So that's kind of a tough one to talk about because everything's very job specific. What I can tell you is that, you know, our main skills, what I look for when I recruit, and I know what a lot of our hiring managers look for, is more of the soft skills. So when we post up a job description, a lot of the requirements on there, yes, you may need. So if it says you need a bachelor's degree or an associate's degree, that's going to be a skill requirement. You know, being able to work on Microsoft Word, Office products, you know, or Excel, PowerPoint, things like that. Those are going to be the hard skills. But the soft skills is really what we look for and what differentiates people that get hired here versus those that don't come through the interview process. And so we're looking for people who are service oriented, who want to give back to the community, and again, are connected to educating and providing success for our student population. Also somebody that's a team player and that can, you know, work on multiple things. There are so many things that I do that are probably not in my job description, but we all work as one big team here in human resources, and it's just the culture here. It's not even a question. If somebody is swamped and you need it, you see it, we just jump in to help. Being a continuous learner is always something that we're looking for. So if someone is curious and constantly trying to better themselves and learn more about not just what they do, but how what they do fits into the organization, that's something that we're very interested in seeing, obviously because we're an education system, but we're always learning here at the district and always trying to provide cutting edge information and curriculum to our students. And again, I think I've already talked about passion for the work, to be passionate about what it is that you do. And then obviously having integrity, because that's very important as our core values, and providing our community and our students with examples of, you know, integrity and ethics. And then obviously pride in your work. So you're probably wondering, well, how do I communicate that in an interview? How are you going to know that I'm service oriented or I'm a team player? And a lot of that comes to when we get to the interview process, I'll talk about, but it's about the examples that you give when we're asking particular behavioral questions and just you sharing a little insight to yourself. We kind of pick up on those things. So again, if you have the basic skills for the job, but maybe don't have a lot of years of experience or any experience at all, these are the other things that we would be looking for in hiring someone. Our hiring process, there's two ways that you can actually get to just see where our jobs are available right now, like the two main ways. If you want to see every job that we have posted, you can come to kusd.edu. And then our human resources department that will have a link to WeCan. So WeCan is Wisconsin basically educators network, And so really these postings, everything that we post or is available is up on WeCan. But I do know a lot of people who aren't teachers have never heard of WeCan. They wouldn't go there necessarily look for a job. So we do post our jobs on Indeed. We post on Handshake. We post in a variety of different places. But if you want like a one-stop shop, WeCan is where it's at. And then WeCan is also where the formal application is. We're in the process of moving to our own system, but for the time being and for our current hiring season, this is where you would go to actually fill out the information. What we would look for on this application is going to be, you know, a resume would be fantastic, and you'd be able to include all your work or educational experience. I encourage people to include a cover letter, even though it's not required to complete your application, to just tell us a little bit about why this job interests you or why you'd be interested in Kenosha Unified. We do actually read the cover letters and the resumes very thoroughly. There's also some pre-screening questions that we read. So any detail that you can give us about your background or who you are as a person will certainly become helpful. We see a lot of applications every day. So, you know, that those details and people, you know, taking the time to actually fill out the application, that really makes you stand out. We would ask for any letters of recommendation you have. There again, they're not required, but if you have somebody that's written you a formal letter of recommendation, I would encourage you to include it there. And then also the online application would ask for 3 references that we can contact. So you'll need to have that prepared before you would actually finish the application process. We post every single position, from a part-time job, from maintenance and grounds, plumbing, electrical, teachers, help desk, marketing and communications folks. Everything goes up on our KUSD and our WeCan. So again, if you just want to kind of see what our overall, what we're hiring for, you can take a look there. And we usually have a couple hundred jobs posted during our hiring season at a time. So there's a lot to look from. Some of the things I can tell you to stand out, I kind of already mentioned, but completing the application in its entirety is helpful. People will try to skip through. One of the things I do see on WeCan is that people think they've submitted an application, but they never answered the criminal background check question, or they didn't hit submit. And it looks like it went through, but it didn't. So you know, it's hard to stand out if we don't even get your application. So I would suggest, you know, completing that application in its entirety and making sure that it gets submitted. And grammatical errors is still something, especially with educators. If you've got a principal that's looking at your job, or one of the department heads, they don't want to see any errors that way. And then if your cover letter can include why you'd want to work here, that's also helpful. One thing I can stress is if there's a job that you're really interested in the district, go ahead and reach out. So if it's at a particular school building and that's listed, you can go ahead and reach out to the principal. Or if it's to the district office, you can go ahead and reach out to human resources and find out if somebody has reviewed your application, when we're doing interviews. That really helps you stand out. I know a lot of people have gotten interviews simply by making sure that they're contacting an actual human being. And then being persistent about it. You know, if the person, the hiring manager says, yes, we're going to be interviewing in a week or 2, I'll get back to you, and it's been a week, I would follow up, because we get busy sometimes, and you want to make sure that you're getting in for that interview. So it doesn't hurt to make sure that you're making a contact with the person that is doing the hiring. Our interview process, we actually have kind of a decentralized hiring. So all of the hiring managers review their own resumes and applications from WeCan, and then they make the determination of who they're hiring. So you can contact human resources, you can contact me and ask about the status of your application and so forth. But I would also connect you then with that hiring manager, because they're the ones that are going to be reaching out for that interview. What I like to do in human resources, if you reach out to me and give me a little bit of information about yourself, then I can contact the principal and let them know we spoke and kind of speak on your behalf. So sort of be an agent for you. So if you are looking at the district but have questions about, you know, where you might fit in or what jobs might be good for you, then you would come through me first. I would recommend giving me a call or popping me an email. And then maybe I can help you determine where you'd want to apply. And then maybe I can connect you with an actual hiring manager so that you can have some more conversations with them. Currently, we're doing virtual interviews, and they are a panel interview. So you will see at least 5 people probably on that interview, which is a little different than the private sector sometimes. They will usually have 1 or 2 people interviewing. We do a panel, and they might not all be from the same area. So if you're interviewing for human resources, you may have somebody from finance and IT on your interview panel. Because again, we all work so closely and collaboratively together, we like to get feedback from other departments when we are hiring for our positions. Standing out on the interview, I can tell you I've sat in quite a few of them, and concise answers, not rambling on too long, and speaking to the question that was asked of you. Anytime you can use examples to show your knowledge of what the question, what we're asking. I remember this one time, or during this time I did this. And I always encourage college students, if you haven't actually done the work, but you've seen it, like in an internship, I saw my manager do this, you can use that as an example as well. So we just want to hear kind of what you've done or what you've experienced. I would also recommend doing a little research on the type of job that you're applying for and the district, just so that you're prepared to speak to any questions we might have about that. And at the end of all of our interviews, we leave time for questions. So I would recommend coming up with at least 3 to 5 questions that you can ask, whether it's just, what's our next step, or asking about someone's management style, or more specific about the job. But always ask questions, because it looks like then you come prepared and that you're actually interested in that particular role. Kind of watch the time here. Quickly, our benefits. I know sometimes when you're getting out of college, some of these things are not as important as compensation. But compensation, we do a great job of compensating our staff here. In fact, one of the jobs that I forgot to mention in the beginning is substitute teacher. And I've had recently a lot of people who have gotten out of college and said, you know what, I didn't find a job in my industry, or I just don't want to do it. I graduated in this degree and I don't want to do it. And we've had people come here and substitute teach because they thought that they might have wanted to be a teacher, but they never went and pursued it. And the reason I'm talking about that with compensation is we compensate one of the highest in the state for substitute teachers. So it's you get great pay, and you get to kind of dip your toe in a profession. Plus, there's a lot of flexibility with being a substitute teacher. So, it's more of kind of what we call a gig economy type of job. So if there's something that you're doing on the side and need to earn some other money, or kind of dip your toe into education pool, substitute teacher might be a way to go. Sorry, but I digress. Compensation though here at the district is very competitive, and the longer you work here, obviously the more opportunity you have for growth and development in your compensation. We also have a wonderful medical, dental, and vision program. So the standard benefits that everybody else has. The one thing that a school district has that a lot of independent or private companies don't have anymore is an actual pension plan. So once you're with our district for 5 years, you will be fully vested in the pension. So, in addition to the 403B that you can participate in, a pension is something that, is one of our biggest selling points, because it will be there for you when you retire. Tuition reimbursement, of course, we're always pushing people to learn and grow. So we have a robust tuition reimbursement program. And the paid time off is fantastic, especially the whole district shuts down over winter breaks. We have 2 weeks off, which again, a lot of other employers don't allow, in addition to any vacation or paid time off that you have. So there is a lot of work-life balance there, and as well as here. So there are many corporations I know where people are working 12-hour days and on the weekends and nights. The school district, you're working hard, but you're not having to put in that 60, 70-hour work week every week. So a lot of people enjoy having that work-life balance. Quickly, our hiring cycle, we are in the midst of our hiring cycle. So our big push, we hire between April to August for our upcoming school year. Now we hire year round because we're always looking for people in different positions, whether it's in communications or IT or finance. But our big pushes typically happen around that time, because that's when people are potentially retiring or transferring or moving out of the district, or we find out we have an increased enrollment and we need to make some changes to our staffing count. And again, we post all of our jobs on WeCan, Indeed, Handshake. We will put some stuff up on Facebook when we do advertise, but the easiest way to really find our jobs is either to go to our KUSD website or to go to WeCan. I think I'm at the point of questions. I didn't want to run too far over. I wasn't sure what my timing was on here. Does anybody have any questions about Kenosha Unified or about working here?
Yeah, I actually have a question.
Okay.
What
hold on.
does hiring look like for students who may want to take a gap year after college and then get a job?
Mhm.
And specifically for like the English department, either in middle school or high school?
Sure. So you're saying you want to take a year off and then look for employment?
Yes.
You know, I would say, you know, especially this year, I don't think anybody's going to blink an eye on that, to take that year off and to do something like that. I would just explain in your cover letter, you know, why you may have taken a year, but I don't think that's going to have any impact. I hope you do something exciting. Yeah, I would say anytime you have a gap in your experience or on your resume, you know, to me, if you can put in some explanation in a cover letter, that's helpful, just so that we kind of know, you know, everybody has different circumstances, and, you know, some people need to take that year off to decompress or help a loved one. Other people want to travel the world. It's, you know, good to just share a little bit of insight into that. Anyone else?
It looks like there is one question in the chat. Could you speak a little bit to the additional questions applicants have to answer in WeCan and how those play a role in getting an interview?
Sure. So some of the questions that are going to be asked, I'm trying to think off the top of my head because it depends on the job, but they're type of pre-screening questions. So they might ask you about more philosophical. If you're looking like at teaching positions, they'll ask you about, you know, your thoughts on, trying to think off the top of my head, a specialized, individualized learning. The way the questions work in WeCan, I'm trying to think specifically like a question. It will ask you maybe about your experience. So it might say, tell us about a time when you have had to, you know, work with, you know, a team, and give us a little example of that. Or, you know, what are some of the computer systems that you've worked on in the past? Please share. So it's just trying to get a little bit deeper into, you know, do you meet the prerequisite or the requirements for the job? Sometimes like a teacher interview questions might be like 10 of them, because for the teacher, we're really trying to get into, you know, what kind of teacher are they? What kind of philosophy do they live by? Whereas in like the finance department, they might be asking more about like what computer systems you've worked on and, you know, more technical skills. And there might only be like 3 questions there. So I would answer that, like, how does that play a role in the interview? If you can give a concise answer and just really put some thought into it, that's always helpful. So if somebody just puts like a 1-word or a 3-word answer and keeps it really short and sweet, you're like, oh, they really didn't think about it too much. And you can always put, you know, I'd be happy to expand on this in a personal interview. So if you feel like you can't write, you know, you have a lot to say, you can kind of sum it up and then say, I'd be happy to discuss it more in person. I wish I could remember one of the questions off the top of my head. Anyone else? One thing, if I can, since it doesn't look there's too many questions, I'll give you guys a little more time. But if you're really not sure, like let's say you go on and you're going to apply for something and you're looking at these questions and you're not quite sure what to answer or how to do it, or even if you're applying for the right job, please reach out to me, or you can just contact Human Resources. We have a direct line. We have a human resources at kusd.edu. It goes to all of us. We are more than happy to make sure that you're applying to the right thing, that you're, answering things correctly, and that, so I want to make sure that that there is a human being here in Human Resources that can help. And if there's a job not open right now, but you are interested in a particular field, I do try to build my talent pipeline. So I keep stacks of resumes, or I put them in my email box, so that if a future position comes open, I can, reach out to people. So, by all means, if you look on Weekend and you don't see anything that really interests you, but you would like to work in Kenosha and possibly for us, I'd be happy to make sure that we can stay in contact and work through it. And if a position opens up, maybe make a move at that time.
Jennifer, can you talk a little bit about retention and what your, I know you had mentioned to me earlier that you have a lot of staff and teachers that are retiring. So what has the retention been, and what does the average age of a KUSD employee? I mean, are you a young group? I mean, I would imagine that for a lot of young people coming right out of college, they might like to know a little bit about what your average employee profile is.
Sure. It's so funny because it depends on if you're in the school building versus the district, and depends on what school, right? So there are some schools where the teachers have been there, 20 years, and there are some where they're a larger school and we have a lot younger teachers. Our retention has been I don't know the exact percentage, but attrition for the district, I mean, teaching, it gets a little tough because teachers will transfer, depending upon if they're moving, relocating, things like that. I would say our average age, gosh, it's mixed. Like at the district, probably 30s if you're in the district office. But we do have, like last year, we brought on a ton of new teachers, of young teachers, and in the district too, about in like our IT department. So, we are trying to make sure that some of the group that is, near retirement, especially teachers, that we have people kind of ready to fill that spot. So it's a mixed bag. We span, all directions, but I would say probably your mid-30s is what you're looking at for an average age. And we do try to do some socialization type things. So there's opportunities for, baseball outings. I mean, or there was. I'm hoping all this will come back after COVID. We do a lot of virtual things right now. But I know, like for new teachers, their orientation and onboarding, they're actually given a mentor that they have for several years, a former mentor. And that's not just for teachers, it's a little more formalized for teachers for their performance evaluation. But like I have a mentor. And so even though I've been here a couple of years, I still have a formal mentor that I talk to. And, if I want to just, ask some questions that I don't feel comfortable asking my boss, or just want to bounce something off of somebody, her and I will have lunch or at least touch base and have coffee. And she's giving me guidance and things like that. So I think it's a great place to start if you don't have any experience, because you're going to have a mentor and have that ability to connect with people. And so we try to do a lot to make sure people feel connected. We do a lot of employee surveys to make sure, if people aren't feeling that they're getting the support from their manager or the district, that we're correcting that and that we're providing better service to our employees. So we really try to listen to our employee voice and make sure that the district is an employer of choice.
And are there any special skills that you see trending right now, or things that you anticipate in the near future, specific training or educational qualifications that I know you mentioned IT being a big area in education, but are there other things that that you would see or anticipate?
Mhm. Right now, what I'm seeing is if it is more on the technology side, and it's just being able to do this, right? So knowing how to Zoom and how to work on like a Google Classroom or a Seesaw or all these virtual learning platforms. And it's not just for the teachers, it's for anybody in the district. Like, we're really starting to be pushed to using more of our tools and resources. And so the more kind of technical savvy you are, I think that the better you're positioned you are. And then if you're also, savvy with social media and that type of thing, because not only just in communications, but I have to use it all the time. Our staff does. So we're using different, methods to communicate with each other as well. So I would say being able to be technically savvy is something that we would look for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've all had to quickly.
Yeah, we've got some fantastic training because we had to bring up a lot of people up to speed on things that we've never had before. But it's so interesting to see somebody that is a little more familiar come in and get onboarded versus somebody that's never seen some of that technology. And it's night and day. It's a lot easier for somebody to come on if they have some technology experience.
Right. Any other questions for Jennifer about Kenosha Unified School District or teaching in general? Kenosha?
Yeah. And really, if you have a different major, I don't know what everybody's majors are. Like I said, we have civil engineers that work here. It's a variety of backgrounds because there's so much that, goes into running an actual district. It's all the buildings, it's all of the coordination of, services, training, heating and cooling, food, transportation, you name it. When we were actually in the midst of, our hybrid model, one of our concerns was, oh gosh, if teachers become, quarantined or something like that, we're not going to be able to run a school. And we kind of laughed because we're like, well, if you don't have heating and air conditioning, you're not going to run a school. Or if you don't have the lunch people there, you can't run it either. So all of these people together have to be there and functioning in order to run a school. If one piece is not functioning, it's really hard to provide service to your students. Oh, it looks like we got a question. For our resumes and recommendations, can you get recommendations from previous teachers in KUSD, or would you prefer only previous employers or professors? If you have if you went to Kenosha Unified and you have a previous teacher that's willing to write your recommendation, absolutely. I would include that because it's very easy for me then just to pick up the phone and call that person and ask them a little more about you. So I would highly recommend that. It's nice to have if you've got employers or a professor as well. So we ask for 3 as our goal, but if you want to submit more, that's fine. I like reading letters of recommendation. I think it's a nice extra step. Not everybody does it. Teachers do it, like education students will always have their letters of recommendation, but usually anybody that's outside of that, if they're applying for, a marketing position or a finance position, won't come in with letters of recommendation. So I think it's a nice touch if you do have some, even if they're personal, if it's somebody speaking to your character, it's a nice touch.
I know one of the things we talk about, Jennifer, with some of our students is kind of their digital footprint. Do you look at LinkedIn, social media profiles when you're doing that whole process of evaluating a candidate?
Yeah, I do. The principals do as well, or any of the hiring managers do. So yeah, if you don't have a LinkedIn, I would definitely create one. Facebook pages, if you have them, I would suggest keeping them private, but if you have them out there publicly, just being careful about what you do put out there. That is something that's a little tough because, Facebook to me is your personal space to speak about what have you, but we're not the only employer that looks at, what somebody might be projecting about themselves. So I'd recommend that if it's not private and it's public, that, you know, you're putting out your best self. But yeah, we do try to look at least LinkedIn and some other places just to get a sense of who you are.
Any other questions? I wonder if there's any students here wanting to go into like guidance and counseling.
Oh, I forgot to even
Want
mention.
to talk a little bit about some of the advanced degrees that are required for various positions?
Sure. So yeah, for our guidance and counseling area, typically people will go and get a master's degree for that, especially if you're going into like a psychologist. You have to get your master's to be in that program. So I completely forgot about that. Yeah, we have all the guidance counselors. I'm going to say this wrong. Psychologists, sociologists, and also the counseling background. So a counselor here can come through with a bachelor's, but anybody that's going into like the psychology or the sociology, usually they're coming through with a master's. And we do have a lot of students that come through, not just through on the education side, but also through on the counseling and guidance side that come through and do their student hours with us, their practicum hours with us. So, and we do have opportunities. One thing I also didn't mention is we don't do a ton of internships and we don't advertise a ton of internships. But if you were interested in doing an internship because you're not sure or you're looking to gain some experience, that's something that you can also reach out to Human Resources for, because we could put together some internship opportunities to, you know, get your foot in the door and kind of get you acclimated to the district. Not all the time, but we are open to it. I had someone last year that actually reached out to me and wanted to do an internship in Human Resources, and we had her all set up and we were ready to go, and then we all got into lockdown, so we've had to postpone. So unfortunately, she wasn't able to join us last summer, but we do have that opportunity as well. Is there anybody here with a counseling or guidance background? I'm working towards, yes. Well, we are always, I will tell you, every hiring season, we're always looking for good guidance counselors, social workers. You know, it's one of those things where actually, and I'm sure a lot of other school districts are kind of taking a look at this as well. It's been in the media a lot too. You know, we're really looking to our SLOs, like our security teams that are at our larger schools, and they do a fantastic job, but there's also kind of a goal to increase some of those, you know, social workers and guidance positions in our district, and maybe transition some of the security, you know, or I just add to it. So if you are looking for a guidance or a social worker position, you know, I would say we most certainly would probably have an opportunity. And it's a strong group of people. It's a great place to start. They're really knowledgeable, great staff. Christina, please email me. Perfect. Yeah, I encourage anybody, if you do have an interest or you're not quite sure, please email me.
Jennifer, do you know of any other large scale like education career fairs that you attend? I know they do the Wisconsin, isn't there like a Wisconsin education fair or something like that? But are there any others that you know that might be coming up that students can still participate in?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, excuse me, the WRF fair I think was last week already.
Yeah.
We do a CISA job fair, which is primarily more educators come to that. And that is on the April 8th. And then we are also doing more national actually fairs. So we'll probably end up doing a couple other college fairs like UWM. We usually go to like Whitewater and those folks, but then there's some national job fairs. There's a national teacher job fair that's coming up. I don't have the date, in April sometime, that we're doing. Actually pull up my calendar here. I'll tell you guys. We are looking as well of doing one of our own, possibly combining with some other school districts. We just don't have any dates on that yet. Let's see if I can find my dates. So Ed Week, there's an Ed Week virtual career fair. That we already went to. Let me see here. Diversity in Education. That's on April 14th. We will most certainly be there. And then there's the American Association of Employment and Education on April 29th. We'll be there. And so it's all virtual right now. And then there's a Teacher of Color National Job Fair on the 22nd that we go to. And so there'll be more people than just me. We usually have our administrators and some other folks from the district that help us when we do those larger virtual job fairs.
Do you have any tips for students attending virtual fairs? I know they can be a little clunky and sometimes awkward. But do you have any advice on how to make the most of a virtual fair?
Yeah, I would treat it. So from what I've seen from the virtual fairs, the few that I've started so far, the ones that I went to, you actually can register with the employer that you want to talk to. So it's more of a one-on-one conversation. Some do have where they have like a presentation and there's 30 people in the audience. But the one-on-one, I mean, I would really encourage you to, come to look at who you'd be registering for and to treat it like a mini interview, to go in and give your 5 to 10 minute elevator speech about who you are and what you're looking for, and then come with a couple questions about what that employer is looking for, what experience they need to have, what their hiring process is, to maximize that time. Because sometimes I think they'll have like 15 minutes and then the person that comes into the room only asks like 2 questions and they could be over in 5 minutes. So I would, if they're allotting you 15 minutes to talk to somebody that's in a hiring position, I would try to maximize that time and really get as much information for them as possible and be able to sell yourself. So I would consider it a mini interview. Be prepared with your resume. I don't know if they have to send your resume on ahead of time. The ones I've had have just put it, send it to me afterwards, but make sure you have that ready to go. It's so different. I always like going to the in-person job fairs and be able to shake hands and connect with people, but it's surprisingly been very intimate still to have that one-on-one conversation, and kind of nice because you can do it in the comfort of your own home and there's not a lot of distractions. So you can attend more job fairs too, because you don't have to, drive up to Madison to get there. So,
right.
Yeah, I would. And I think for most of the people who are attending the job fair, they're free. So I would highly encourage you to do a lot of that networking while you can.
Great.
Quiet group.
I know.
It's hard when you can't see anybody's faces. You see their screen.
Sure. Yeah. Now's the time to ask questions. If you have any questions in the last few minutes here before we wrap up.
I'm trying to think if there's anything I can share. Is this go till 3?
Yeah, is that correct, Haley? Yeah, I think we go till 3.
Yep, just till whenever we're done with Q&A.
Sure.
You know, I can, if you guys want, there's like a 2-minute video that I was going to show before, that if you want to take a look at just a little bit more about the district, it's a nice video that kind of shows all of our aspects of, you know, the district.
Yeah, that would be great.
I think I can give it to you. Let me see. All right. Are you guys able to see it?
Yep.
School district, when you need to have some support more than what you're getting within your school, you have that. You have your village that you can go and get help with.
The district kind of draws you in, and it's something that you want to become a part of and want to help succeed and bring forward. So Bradford's a family, but essentially it's not just Bradford, it's the whole district that really takes you in. And if you need anything, everybody's willing to help in some way, shape, or form. It's something that I love. I love getting up every morning, coming out here and being around kids and just trying to make a difference in kids' life.
The district is very supportive. I find out that every time that they can help us with information, how to improve as a person, as a teacher, as a helper for the student, they do a good job in that. I really enjoy it. I feel like this is my home.
I really think the size of KOSD is the perfect size. It's not too big where I, as a professional, feel like I'm lost, but at the same time, it's not too small to where they offer tons of opportunities for the students.
Yeah, I've grown up here. I live in the community, and I certainly enjoy being part of an organization that I feel the community can be proud of in all the different aspects of the jobs I've had here. I've just been amazed. Kenosha Unified has the best employees. They're so dedicated and so committed to our kids and giving them a good experience and helping them grow.
When you're working with a group of individuals that are all on the same level and wanting the same achievements, it just makes work fun. We all support each other. It's a nice place.
So short and sweet, but I thought that kind of spoke to, again, the culture that I was talking about before and just the environment. And then the one gentleman who said, you know, the size of the district is really nice. And that's something that I try to explain to folks as well. Like, you know, you go to a smaller district, that's great. You get smaller classroom sizes, or you get more, more visibility, but the resources may not also be there. So our district, because of our size, has a lot of resources that you can have as an employee, but it's also not as large as like Chicago public school system, where it's so big where, you know, the superintendent may not even know who you are. So I think it's a perfect size to start a career and gain that experience and that training and still have enough opportunity to grow, but you're not lost within such a large employer. So you get a lot of personalized attention.
There's a couple of questions. Jennifer, someone asked, is there anything that we haven't asked that we should ask? And then someone asked for you to share your email.
Sure. So I will put my email in here. So you have that. Is there something that we haven't asked that we should ask? You know, I don't know if this is something you would have asked, but something I would say. So when you are looking to apply, if you are going to apply online, one of the things that I would suggest is to not apply for everything under the sun either. So if there's like 7 jobs that you look at, like, oh, I like all 7 of them or all 8 of them, again, reach out to me or talk to someone here in Human Resources, and we can kind of help you select where you think you want to send your, put your efforts for those applications. Because sometimes if we see somebody, applying for a laundry list of things, we're like, wow, they're just kind of throwing their resume out there to see what sticks. And all of the hiring managers can see what you've applied for. So we had one person the other day that was applying to have like the chief of human resources job. And then they were also applying for a second shift janitor. And it's like, well, you're throwing them out a little far. So, obviously we want you to have a focused application. So I would suggest just making sure that you're applying for things that are really within scope of your experience and your job, or your expertise. The other thing too is kind of the length of the process. I don't think anybody asked about. Typically, when you apply, when a job is posted, we leave that job up there for at least a week or two, to try to gain applicants and kind of look at our applicant pool. And then usually the hiring manager will look at those applications, they'll narrow them down. And then some managers will make phone calls, some will email. So I suggest you're constantly being on top of your messages and your emails and your phone, because they're not going to reach out 100 times. They'll reach out once or twice to set up an interview, and if they don't hear back from you, they're moving on. Once the interview is scheduled, I would say usually it's about 30 minutes to 45 minutes. And then most of the time, unless you're going for more of an administrative job, maybe counseling, you might have a second interview. But usually we do one round of interviews and then we move to offer. And we're pretty quick about it. So you would usually hear back from a hiring manager within, a couple days of your interview. So, usually hear back very quickly. Our offer process after that point too is pretty smooth. You would hear from one of us here in HR, and our onboarding process and our employment process is obviously we make you an offer. If you accept, we have a criminal background check, references. There's a drug test and a tuberculosis screen that you do, even if you're not working in a school, even at the district office. We have everybody do that. And then there's some basic paperwork like your direct deposit, tax forms, things like that. After all that's done, then you would be onboarded. So it really is a pretty quick turnaround process once that interview is in play. And if you are not selected, like let's say you interview and you're not selected for the position, you will hear back from that hiring manager either through phone or email to let you know of the status, after you interview. So there's another question. Does it look better to check in on your application after you send it or leave it until you get a response? I would highly recommend checking in, because the hiring managers could have a lot of applications to go through and they're not going to remember everybody's name. So if you can call in or email and find out like, hey, did you receive my resume? I'm very interested in this position. When do you think you're going to be interviewing for this position? That's all good things to do. If you're not quite sure who the hiring manager is, because sometimes it's not very apparent, then you would just call human resources or email human resources and ask, did my application go through and who could I contact about it? And the reason I say to follow up is because sometimes people, like I said before, they don't hit the submit button. They think they've applied and they didn't. And I always think it's a good thing to do is to double check and get your name out there. And I've heard of hiring managers bringing people in for interviews specifically because they said, this person called me 3 times. And finally I was like, obviously they want the job. I want to meet them. So yeah, I would check in. Anything else?
Yeah, I think that just about sums it up. Thank you again, Jennifer from Kenosha Unified School District. And Jennifer put her email address in the chat for all of you so you can reach out to her. And then I think I need to mention that all of these career track videos are recorded and made available for viewing. This video should be available no later than noon on Monday. Correct me if I'm wrong, Haley, but I think that's what it says here. And they can be found on the website at UW River Falls. So it's uwrf.edu/UWS career treks. So I can put that in the chat too if students want to come back and watch either this one or any of the other videos in the series. These, this is a great way. It's been a wonderful way to know our employers throughout the state, and great to have a school district because I don't think there has been one in the series yet. And especially now more than ever, I think education is such an honorable profession and a much needed in our community. So all across the board, not just teachers, but like all of those support people and behind the scenes and administrative staff that make a district successful at what it does and impacting lives. So thanks again, Jennifer, and thanks all of you who viewed our video today and participated in this career track. And thanks again to Haley for offering the tech support and coordinating this and putting it all together.